In a bustling city, renowned for its cultural diversity and vibrant life, lived a man named David. David was a lawyer, known for his sharp mind and keen sense of justice. One day, he attended a community meeting where people discussed the growing indifference among neighbors. Intrigued and slightly skeptical, David stood up and posed a question to the speaker, who was a respected community leader known for his wisdom. "Who exactly is my neighbor?" David asked, wanting to provoke thought and perhaps catch the leader in a debate. The leader, a man named Marcus, smiled gently. "Let me tell you a story," he began, and thus unfolded the modern retelling of the Good Samaritan. Ethan, a young businessman, was traveling from one city to another. His destination was a neighboring town where he hoped to secure a lucrative business deal. The route was known to be treacherous, with its winding paths and shadowy alleys. Yet, driven by ambition and urgency, Ethan decided to take the risk. He set off early in the morning, his briefcase filled with important documents and his mind preoccupied with the upcoming negotiations. The road was long and deserted, and as the hours passed, the bustling city behind him seemed like a distant memory. The sun was shining brightly, casting long shadows as it climbed higher into the sky. Ethan enjoyed the quiet, thinking about his presentation and the possible outcomes of the meeting. He was optimistic and confident, but he also knew the dangers of this particular route. However, the allure of success outweighed the risks in his mind. As Ethan walked through a particularly narrow alley, he was suddenly ambushed by a group of robbers. They were ruthless and efficient, stripping him of his valuables, including his briefcase, and beating him mercilessly. Ethan tried to fight back, but he was outnumbered and overpowered. When the robbers were done, they left Ethan lying on the ground, bleeding and barely conscious. His clothes were torn, and he had nothing left but the pain and the dust from the road. His mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion as he struggled to stay awake. The once hopeful journey had turned into a nightmare. Hours passed, and Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness. The sun climbed higher, and the heat became unbearable. In his semi-lucid state, Ethan saw a figure approaching. It was a priest from a nearby temple, known for his piety and dedication to his faith. Ethan felt a glimmer of hope. Surely, this man of God would help him. But as the priest drew closer, he hesitated. The sight of the bloodied, disheveled man was disturbing, and the priest feared becoming ceremonially unclean. He also worried about his safety. What if the robbers were still nearby? Without a second glance, he crossed to the other side of the street and continued on his way, his steps quickening as he moved past the scene. Not long after, another man approached. He was a Levite, a member of a respected religious order. Ethan's hope flickered once again. The Levite, like the priest, was supposed to be a paragon of virtue and compassion. But the Levite, upon seeing Ethan, also hesitated. Thoughts of personal safety and the inconvenience of helping a stranger in such a dire state overwhelmed him. He, too, crossed to the other side and hurried along, leaving Ethan to his fate. The Levite couldn't bear to deal with the messiness and potential danger of the situation, and he rationalized his inaction by thinking someone else would surely come to help. As the day wore on and Ethan's strength waned, another figure appeared on the horizon. This time, it was a man named Sam, a Samaritan. In this city, Samaritans were often looked down upon due to historical prejudices and social divides. Sam, however, was different. He was known for his kind heart and willingness to help others. When Sam saw Ethan lying on the ground, he didn't hesitate. He rushed to his side, assessing his injuries with a sense of urgency. Ethan's face was bruised, his clothes tattered, and he was barely conscious. Sam could see the pain and fear in Ethan's eyes. Sam quickly opened his backpack, which was always stocked with basic medical supplies. He gently lifted Ethan's head and offered him some water, which Ethan gratefully accepted with a weak nod. Sam then cleaned Ethan's wounds with antiseptic wipes, the sting making Ethan wince but also reminding him he was still alive. With careful hands, Sam applied bandages to the worst of the cuts and used a clean cloth to wipe away the dirt and blood from Ethan's face. Throughout this process, Sam spoke soothing words, reassuring Ethan that he would be okay and that help was on the way. The compassion in Sam's actions brought a glimmer of hope back into Ethan's eyes. After tending to Ethan's immediate wounds, Sam realized that Ethan was too weak to walk. Without hesitation, he hoisted Ethan onto his own donkey, a sturdy and reliable animal that Sam used for his travels. Sam made sure Ethan was secure and comfortable before he began leading the donkey down the road. The journey was slow and arduous. Sam walked beside the donkey, keeping a watchful eye on Ethan and offering words of encouragement. Ethan, despite his pain and exhaustion, felt a profound sense of gratitude toward this stranger who had shown him such unexpected kindness. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Sam and Ethan finally arrived at a small inn on the outskirts of the next town. The innkeeper, an elderly man named Jacob, came out to greet them, his eyes widening in concern when he saw Ethan's condition. "Can you help us?" Sam asked, his voice steady but urgent. "This man has been attacked and needs a place to rest and heal." Jacob nodded immediately, leading them inside and showing them to a room. The inn was modest but clean, and the room had a comfortable bed and a basin of fresh water. Sam helped Ethan onto the bed, ensuring he was settled before turning to the innkeeper. That night, Sam stayed by Ethan's side, making sure he was comfortable and his wounds were tended to. He changed the bandages, gave him water, and helped him eat a little food to regain his strength. Ethan's gratitude grew with each act of kindness, and he found himself opening up to Sam, sharing bits of his life and the fear he had felt during the attack. Sam listened attentively, offering words of comfort and understanding. He told Ethan about his own experiences, the prejudices he faced, and how he believed in the power of compassion and helping others, regardless of their background. Their conversation deepened the bond between them, and Ethan found solace in Sam's presence. The next morning, Sam approached Jacob with a serious expression. He reached into his wallet and handed Jacob a generous amount of money. "Here are $200, Sam said. "Please use this to take care of Ethan. I have to continue my journey, but I will return in a few days to check on him. If there are any additional expenses, I will cover them." Jacob, touched by Sam's generosity and commitment, assured him that Ethan would be well taken care of. "You have my word," Jacob said. "I'll make sure he gets everything he needs." With a final glance at the sleeping Ethan, Sam gathered his belongings and set off to continue his journey. He felt a mix of emotions, relief that Ethan was safe, but also a sense of unfinished business. He had promised to return, and he intended to keep that promise. As Sam traveled, his thoughts often returned to Ethan. He hoped the young businessman would recover quickly and that the innkeeper would honor his word. Sam's heart was full of compassion and a deep sense of responsibility for a stranger who had become more than just a passing encounter. Under the care of Jacob, Ethan's condition gradually improved. The innkeeper tended to his wounds, provided nourishing meals, and ensured he had plenty of rest. Each day, Ethan grew stronger, and with that strength came a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. Ethan often thought about Sam, the man who had saved his life. He was moved by Sam's selflessness and kindness, qualities that seemed rare in a world where people often looked out only for themselves. Ethan realized that Sam's actions had taught him a profound lesson about compassion and the true meaning of being a neighbor. True to his word, Sam returned to the inn a few days later. He was relieved to see Ethan up and about, albeit still a bit weak. The two men embraced, their bond stronger than ever. Sam was pleased to hear from Jacob that Ethan's recovery was progressing well. "Thank you for everything," Ethan said, his voice filled with emotion. "I don't know how I can ever repay you." "You don't need to repay me," Sam replied with a warm smile. "Just remember to pass on the kindness. Help someone else in need, and that will be more than enough." Ethan took Sam's words to heart. He returned to his business, but with a changed perspective. He began to volunteer at local shelters and became an advocate for helping those in need. His encounter with Sam had ignited a passion for compassion and community service that he had never felt before. As for Sam, he continued his journey, helping others whenever he could. His act of kindness toward Ethan was just one of many, but it had a lasting impact. The story of the Good Samaritan spread through the city, inspiring others to look beyond their prejudices and to help their neighbors, regardless of their differences. And David, the lawyer who had posed the question to Marcus, was deeply moved by the story. He realized that being a neighbor wasn't about proximity or familiarity, but about compassion and the willingness to help those in need. With a renewed sense of purpose, David vowed to apply these lessons in his own life, becoming a true neighbor to all.